Well, hello there and welcome to episode 14 of my self-employment vlog. Thank you for stopping by. So what's been happening this week? Well, unfortunately at the weekend I completely buggered up my back, which led me to be in a lot of pain. My back went into a spasm, very similar to how my neck was last year. So anyone that followed me will know that I had some bad pain in my neck, and it's been quite painful in my back. So I've been sort of finding it very, very difficult to walk and move. I've been hobbling around like an old man, which is never much fun or particularly glamorous. But I am very proud of myself that I pushed through and I continue to work hard this week and actually got a lot done. I was able to enter into 2 competitions this week, which was fantastic. And there's a link hopefully above that will show you those pieces that I've been working on. So it's been a good week, it's been positive, but as I said, my back has been painful. So I've been using a hot water bottle and also a TENS machine for my back to help with pain, and that has helped actually. Now, some other important news is that I've decided that next week I'm going to trial my first busking set. Now, the town that I live in is a very small market town, so it's not a particularly crowded place. And it's fairly easy to set yourself up in a position where you're not going to be sort of too close to people, but it's small enough so that people can hear you. And I just sort of feel now would be the time just to trial it and see, how it goes. And I wonder whether this would be a good opportunity to try it out before, launching into it really fully when the moment arises. So that's my plan. I'm actually going to try and do it on Monday afternoon. Now, I will also try my best to take some video footage as well so that I can upload my sort of experience. Now, I am prepared. I've got a face mask and I'm going to be taking antibacterial spray and things like that. So I'm going to try my very hardest to make sure that everything is safe for myself, obviously, and for the people around me. And I think, it could be received quite well. Now, I did post on the local town's Facebook group just to say, look, this is what I'm planning to do. Does anyone have any major objections? And I was actually amazed by how many responses I had. About 60 responses, all very positive, saying, yes, we'd like you to do it. Or, we just think music would be great right now. I've cleared it with the residents, and I think, the response is positive. So it would be foolish of me not to give it a try. And, hopefully it'll be well received. And I wanted to use this time in this video just to talk about some of my experiences as a teacher, kind of warts and all. And the reason for doing it is because I didn't really get the closure of leaving my job because of the way that schools closed suddenly with the lockdown of coronavirus. So I was kind of like, one minute I was in, and then the next day I was gone, and that was it. That was the end of my teaching, and I kind of just felt like there wasn't what I would feel like a definitive endpoint for me, where I could draw a line under things and say that's the end of that chapter. So for those that know me, teaching was never on the horizon as a career for me. It was one of those things that I sort of fell into, mostly because I needed a secure job, and I felt that that was the best job for me in terms of being able to use my skills as a musician, and it seemed to make sense. So, but when I look back on things, it's crazy to think that I did become a teacher, because my actual natural personality is very much not akin to teaching. For pretty much all my adult life, I've suffered with anxiety and depression, and I'm not ashamed to say it. It has been something that has been part of my life, and I've managed it in different ways, and I've accepted it as who I am. So to become a teacher with that as a feature of my personality was perhaps maybe a little bit optimistic. But for the most part, my life as a teacher was generally okay. I enjoyed it. There were times when it was tough, and there were periods of time where it was very tough. And I think every teacher experiences that, where the job can be demoralizing. You can put a lot of time and effort into things and have lessons fall apart just because either the lesson just didn't work, it was too hard for the kids, or wasn't engaging enough. So that's tough. I think the things that I enjoyed about the job was that the actual day would go very quickly. The life of a teacher is very, very fast paced. Having worked in retail, I know what it's like to look at the clock and see the minutes slowly ticking by. But as a teacher, the days would just fly by. You're always very busy. There was always things to do. There was never really a dull moment in teaching. And I liked that. I liked that it was fast paced. I like the fact that, you know, you had no time really to catch your breath sometimes, and you were just kind of whizzing from class to class and lesson to lesson, and that was great. And I think some of the other positives that I've taken is just seeing kids outside of lessons who would come along and play, you know, during break times and lunch times. Those who really were so passionate about music that they wanted to do it any moment they could during the day. And I think that's really special when you see people who've got that passion. It reminds me of when I was at school. You know, my best friend Justin and a few of my other friends, they would sit around at lunchtimes playing on their guitars and singing songs. And actually, you know, that was like 20 plus years ago, but as a teacher, I've seen the same thing happening, you know, kids coming in, singing songs, playing the guitar, playing the piano. So nothing's changed in that respect. And it's kind of nice to see it, you know, still continuing to this day. And I think the other aspects of the job that I enjoyed were seeing pupils who perhaps found music difficult, but who really tried. They tried their very hardest to get better. And it was those little glimmers, you know, when you'd see someone who just couldn't play in time whatsoever, suddenly just about be able to play in time. Now, you know, for musical people, that would be, you know, they could do that without blinking. But for someone who wasn't musical to get that, you know, that's really rewarding. And I've seen loads and loads of pupils over the years who've, you know, they've not taken it as an option because, you know, they're not naturally inclined towards music, but they've worked really hard in lessons and they've achieved quite a lot, you know, for them. And I think, you know, those, as a teacher, that for me personally is what it's all about, seeing someone do something that they couldn't do before because they've tried to do it. I think some of the challenges really are sort of at the flip side, is that it's very hard sometimes when you're teaching about something that you're really passionate about to have people kind of disengaged or not trying, and that was really hard for me to see people just either give up straight away or just not bother trying. And I think, you know, I appreciate that the subject's not for everyone, but I think it's always hard when someone doesn't achieve anything because they just didn't try. I mean, that goes for any walk of life. If someone just doesn't even try, it's hard to respect them and give them the time that they need. A lot of people that I think found it very hard to take that ownership and responsibility and just wanted everything done for them. And that's a shame, really, because when you go out into the big wide world, it's very rare that anyone's going to just do stuff for you. You're kind of expected to do things for yourself. And unfortunately, I think there's some people out there that are not equipped for the real world. I think each year it became slightly harder for several reasons, really. I think the first and most important is that I felt after about 3 or 4 years of teaching that I should have found my stride as I got more experienced. And I was finding by the 3rd, 4th, 5th year that things were still as hard as they had been, and that hadn't changed. And whilst that could all have been in my head, I do just feel that things got tougher each year. And I think the reason for that is that concentration levels, focus had kind of dwindled. And that window of opportunity, which used to be maybe like 1 minute, 45 seconds to 1 minute previously in a, you know, like when I first started teaching, was now 5 to 10 seconds. And for me, that's just, I can't work like that, where, you know, you've got that 5-second window of opportunity, and if you don't take it, then you've lost them. And I think once you've lost them, I think a lot of people now feel that it's okay just to kind of ruin it then for everyone else. And I feel that's such a shame. I think that was the hardest thing for me, was seeing those kids who would really try hard in lessons being stopped by those who just didn't want to be there. And if you don't want to be there, that's fine, but don't ruin it for other people. That's just not a nice thing to do for anyone. So you always had different classes with different dynamics. You know, you'd have one class that were really hard work and focused, another class that were a bit wild. You'd have a class that were you know, maybe weak musically, but like really hard workers. And you'd have some classes that were really funny. There'd be lots of funny people in there that, you know, there'd just be a real buzz and a dynamic to the group that was really nice. And I really liked how you could be teaching a 1 year group all the same age, but every class would have its own unique feel. No class was ever the same. And I used to get people ask me, oh, who's your favourite class? Who's your favourite class? And you know, it's impossible to answer that because no two classes are the same. They all have different qualities about them. You know, so yeah, I could never really answer that question. So what was it then that made me take that leap then to self-employment? Because obviously, having worked for 7 years, to take that leap was a big step. And I think, if I'm honest, the last couple of years of teaching were very tough indeed. And people that know me know what I've kind of gone through over the last couple of years. And I think it all stems probably from when I lost my mum to cancer. Now, I took a sort of a short amount of time off of work, and then I was back in pretty rapidly. And I sort of feel that perhaps that was a mistake, and I should have taken more time off, because going back to school, whilst I was able to maintain my job and keep going, I think probably deep down I had a lot of anger and frustration and just sadness lurking beneath the surface. And that's a hard thing and a hard series of emotions to carry with you when you're working day by day with teenagers. And I have made misjudgments because of where I was at that time, and it led to some very difficult and tense situations, and some very hard situations that put me in the firing line somewhat, losing a lot of respect, I think, from pupils that I taught, and just generally having a rough time. And I think sometimes pupils don't understand that teachers are real people. We have real lives, we have real problems outside of school, we have things that happen, and we're all susceptible to grief, and we're all susceptible to making mistakes, and it happens to us all. But I had to go through a lot of tough times, a lot of harassment from people, and that was nasty and horrible and tough. And at the time it was pretty brutal, and I was very low, and it was hard to keep going most of the time. However, when I look back at it, I think it was the greatest blessing I've ever had, because without that, I wouldn't have had the impetus to say, do you know what? I'm putting my foot down. I've had enough. This is not going to go on any longer. I'm done. And I think the moment that my head and my brain sort of went through that process, I sort of instantly switched off from teaching, and I knew that that was it for me. I was ready to then go on and live my life the way I felt I deserved, because actually I don't feel I deserve to be harassed and demoralized and treated like shit, and I don't think anyone deserves that. So I felt ready to move on and enjoy my life doing the things that I love, and so having that bad experience really gave me the boost to make the decision that I'd always wanted to do anyway. I just needed something like this to happen, and so I made the decision. I completely disengaged from teaching, and I made the decision to leave. And as you know from watching these videos, I am now self-employed and happy not to be in that situation anymore. Now, I do a lot of teaching still, but it's one-to-one piano teaching. Now, I absolutely love that. I love the one-to-one teaching. I love building a rapport with an individual that I can spend 30 minutes with, just them. Not 30 minutes with them whilst I'm looking behind me to see if someone's throwing a beater or if someone is chucking a keyboard. All those things that are just time wasting and soul destroying. I can spend time, and I teach quite a lot of piano pupils now, and I love seeing how much progress they're making, and I love seeing just the fact that they're growing as individuals, they're growing in terms of their technique and their skills, and you can see they're really enjoying it and really proud of what they're achieving. And for me, that's where teaching should be for me. So I'm sorry this has been a bit of a long rambling video. I just felt it was important for me to get some closure on some things so that I can draw a line under what's been a very difficult couple of years and move on, knowing that it's done, it's in the past. I've learnt lots of lessons, but I've also learnt to value myself and to not allow people to treat me just the way I've been treated, no more. So I think I've grown a bit of a backbone now, and I'm a lot stronger as an individual, ready to take on new challenges. There is no Mr. Yard anymore. I am a person, a musician, a composer, and that's the way I want it to be. So that's it for now. Thank you for checking by. It has been a long video, but it's been something I've wanted to get off my chest for a while, and I feel better for it. So anyway, take care. I'll see you next week for episode 15. Look after yourselves. Bye.